Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to my mid-year update on my These Products Will Self-Destruct project. This video series was inspired by my friend Emily from Emily and Max, who did this. She did these books, I believe, will self-destruct last year on her book channel, and if she didn't read the books that were on her original list, then she had to unhaul those books. And I thought it would be really fun to turn this into like a makeup style project. So I picked out 10 products at the beginning of this year that are really old products in my collection that I don't show enough love to, but for some reason or another, I just continue to keep them around. And I give myself specific goals for each product that I have to accomplish before the end of the year, or these products will self-destruct and essentially I need to declutter them or get them out of my collection. We are halfway through the year. I have one empty and I actually have 5. So half of the products that I am, like, I've already made my mind up. I don't need to keep them in my collection anymore. They will be getting decluttered during my next declutter. And one thing I feel like I've taken away from this year doing less projects is it really makes me see what I'm naturally reaching for. In the past, when I've had so many projects going at a time, I feel like most of my decisions are like kind of made for me each day in terms of what makeup I'm going to reach for. If I really don't know what I want to reach for, or if I'm feeling uninspired or just don't want to think about it, I would just reach for my project pan products, or most days I would feel obligated to. But now, since I'm not as heavily focused on project panning, I see what I'm naturally inclined to reach for. And while many of these products hold a special place in my heart, I just don't get excited to reach for them. And I just do not have time. As I'm aging, I just don't have time for products that I'm not very excited about. So I do have half of my products that are already basically destructing, but I do have 5 more to bring in so that we still have 10 to track. So if you're interested in the update, stay tuned. First, if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel and you like project panning content, palette themed content, or just hanging out and chit-chatting about makeup, I would love if you'd consider subscribing before moving on. Don't forget to like this video and leave a comment down below, or do anything else the YouTube algorithm loves for you to do. I would really appreciate it. And without further ado, let's jump into the video. All right, let's start with the products that I'm going to continue to try and use. We can actually start with this first because this was almost an empty. It's the Uoma by Sharon C Flawless IRL foundation. One of my oldest foundations in my collection. Almost had this empty, but I ended up frankening this with my tinted SPF drops from Tula, which are too light for me, and I also just wouldn't use on its own. And then this was too dark for me, so now we've got a long way to go with this, but I have really enjoyed using this. I was mixing this a lot with my Laura Mercier Real Flawless foundation and getting a ton of use out of this first half of the year. And I don't think I'll have any issue continuing to reach for it. I just don't know, like, in terms of how many uses we now have, we have a lot of product in here. So this is something, if I'm pretty close to finishing by the end of the year, I will just continue to chug along and finish it. I am really glad that I pulled this into this project because I have been reaching for this a ton. You cannot get the Uoma by Sharon C foundation anymore, which makes me really sad because I think this is a beautiful medium to full coverage foundation. I am hopeful though that I will finish this before the end of the year because now this is 2 foundation products, so it would be 2 empties for my year-end empties. We'll see though. Then I rolled in all of my Dose of Colors liquid lipsticks. This is my favorite liquid lipstick formula, but these are all extremely old in my collection. I do actually have 1 empty, so I was able to empty out 1 of the shades. Many of mine have lost the little sticker on the bottom that says what shade they are, but I believe this was in the shade Lazy Daisy. The only other 2 that I've reached for this year are these 2. I have the shade Mondays, which I've reached for 3 times, and I think this is in the shade Brick, which I've reached for twice. I really just want to reach for these as many times as possible, and no matter what, wherever we're at with these by the end of the year, I just need to throw these in the trash. I don't think any of these 4 will end up being an empty, but I would like to get some good use out of these 2 shades this summer when I'm reaching for potentially a bolder color like this. So I'm still working on these. Regardless, these are ending up in the trash because they're very old. And then another lip product that I rolled in was one of my Tarte Colorsplash lipsticks. Again, a very old lip product in my collection, but nothing looks like this. Looks like I bought this within the last several months. There's not even like the watermarks on the side of this. It has no scent to it, and I really enjoy this. It's the lipstick that I have on today, and then I do have one lip gloss that I'm going to talk about that's layered over top. It's a very nude look, kind of concealer lippy. A part of that is because of the lip gloss that I put on top. I really like this shade. I gave myself the goal to reach for this 30 times. I don't reach for a bullet lipstick that much. I have only reached for this 3 total times so far this year, so I need to get chugging along. But in the summer, I like to do a really bronze look similar to today, and then nude lip. So I'm hoping to get maybe at least half of my uses by the end of the summer. So by the time September hits, hopefully I have 15 to 20 uses on this. This is something I would like to keep. I would like to save this. So we're still working on that. I did also give myself a 30 use goal with my Huda Beauty Tantour. I don't know if I took a picture of this at the beginning of the year. I did already have a pan in this, and this is a pretty opaque contour bronzer sort of product. I really use this most as a nose contour. I have used it 1 or 2 times this year as like a face contour as well, just to get some use out of it that way. I have reached this 7 out of 30 times. I will say I've definitely been reaching for cream and liquid products more frequently lately. Not necessarily this, but I am hopeful to get the 30 uses on this before the end of the year, because I do like having this in my collection. Again, this is quite old, but it literally has no smell to it, and so I'm gonna stretch it out. I'm gonna stretch its life out as much as I possibly can. I still have a long ways to go with this, but this is not something I want to declutter just yet. And then I also give myself a 30 use goal with my Fenty Beauty Cheeks Out blush and Petal Poppin. Actually, sorry, I gave myself a 20 use goal with this because my blush collection is so large. I've only reached for this 1 time. I couldn't find this for a little bit, and then I finally found it. So I've reached for this once. I want to pop this into my overnight bag, because if I had this with me, like to create work appropriate looks, I definitely would reach for this quite a bit. I do love the Fenty Beauty Cheeks Out blush formula. I think it's extremely easy to work with, and I think this is a beautiful shade. I'm a little disappointed it was missing in the springtime, because I feel like this is the perfect spring shade, but honestly I feel like this is such a flexible blush shade. I could really get use out of it any time of year. So this is another one I do really want to keep in my collection, so I need to get 19 more uses with this. And that brings me to the 5 products that I have decided I'm ready to be done with. I'm officially ready to be done with my last remaining Becca blush. This is in the shade Wild Honey. And the reason I'm finally ready is the formula is definitely just not what it used to be. And that's what you're gonna see with a lot of the products that I'm about to talk about. I've noticed with some powder products that are getting older, they just seem more powdery. And then on my face, it's just so unflattering. It just looks very powdery on my face, which is not what I am about at all. So Becca Wild Honey is, I think I probably bought this in 2016, maybe 2017, so well over 5 years old at this point in time. I do love a nude blush, which is why I've wanted to keep this around for so long, but I do have some other nude blushes in my collection, and I just have no care to reach for this at all. So I will ultimately declutter that. This is the one that I think has been the toughest for me to come to the realization that I just don't need to keep this in my collection anymore. It is the Kaleidos Ray Rider highlight, and I feel like in my mind I'm always like, okay, I don't need to keep this anymore, and then I'll swatch it and I'm like, okay, it really is beautiful, and it doesn't have, like, it looks like it would be really glittery, but then it's not. I just feel like it's a little bit icier than I want, and see, it is so pretty. It is so pretty. I probably will end up decluttering this to my daughter just in case I ever make the decision that I regret decluttering it. Yeah, like then you shear it out and it's so pretty. But anytime I go to actually reach for this, there's 10 other highlights in my collection that I would rather be reaching for over this. And that's why I'm like, girl, like it can swatch pretty, but we don't have to keep it. So I think I just need to let go of this. Like, I think if this wasn't in my collection, I would completely forget about it. I wouldn't even have a second thought about it. And then, like I said, every time I'm like, okay, I want to use this, and then I go to use it, I'm like, but I'd rather be reaching for other things. So I think it's time to say goodbye to the Kaleidos Ray Rider highlight. This is another one that took me a long time to finally be at peace with, like, the need to declutter this. This is my Smashbox Cali contour kit. I actually gave myself the goal of hitting pan, and I don't know if you'll be able to see, but way up in the corner here, there is a small pan. I was reaching for this bronzer a ton at the beginning of the year, and every time I did my bronzer, I would be at work, and like halfway through the day, I'd notice like just like weird streaks where my bronzer was, and I'm like, and then I would use the blush, and this blush is really pretty, but again, it just looks kind of powdery-y. I think I bought this in either 2018 or 2019, so again, it's well over 5 years old. When I first bought this, I absolutely loved this. This was like the first face palette that I really loved. Now I love all of my NARS face palettes, we know. But first of all, the contour, I'm just not going to be reaching for. I don't contour really at all, and if I do, it's going to be like a cream contour. The blush shade I think is really pretty. The blush I think is beautiful. It's a very flexible blush shade that can really match just about any look. So that part makes me sad. The bronzer is fine, but I have so many other bronzers in my collection that I like more, or that I would rather reach for, or that it's a single bronzer so I'm not reaching into a face palette. Maybe that my brush fits into a little bit better than this, so I won't miss the bronzer. The two highlights I really didn't use that much. Those were definitely my least used pans in this face palette. And then obviously I do have a pan in the setting shade, but I prefer like my Kaleidos, not Kaleidos, my oh my gosh, Kosas setting powder. This is way too heavy to set all over my face, and then I do really like my Makeup by Mario for underneath my eyes. So the only thing I would really use this shade for would be to set my lids, and I have so many other lid setting shades that I could be reaching for. So ultimately, I think the thing that I will miss the most from this palette is the blush, and I'm just ready. Like I'd rather reach for my NARS face palettes at this point, so I'm ready to finally say goodbye to Smashbox Cali Contour. But this is also one of the OG products on my channel that I feel like I could not shut up about. So it's just, it feels like the end of an era, a little bit sad, but this is going to end up getting decluttered when I do my declutter series. And another face palette that is going to get decluttered is my LORAC Shine Bright, and this is just for the same reason. This pains me because I really love all three of these blush shades, Aura, Tea Rose, and Blossom, but they are just way too powdery at this point. They don't look flattering on my cheeks. They are matte blushes, and I do prefer something a little bit glowier. I don't mind layering with a blush topper or just going heavier with my highlight. I'm very glowy today, way glowier than I intended. But they are very, very powdery and just not flattering on the face anymore. I also don't really reach for the two highlights, so this really makes me sad. And honestly, if I could get like these two blush shades specifically, maybe not the LORAC formula, but something like this and a couple other blush shades, which honestly I'm like, okay, this is such a boring, plain, simple blush, but I love it. Anyway, what am I trying to say? This is old. It really is time to go. I want to say did this release in 2017, 18, or 9? This is well over 5 years old as well. So this, we're saying goodbye to. My Glamlit Chocolate Martini palette. This I absolutely loved when I first got it, and I think part of that is I did a couple looks that I just fell in love with, wore them to, like, one thing was like a cider festival, loved my look, and I think just because I loved my look and could very specifically pinpoint it to this palette, I was like, oh my god, this is like a favorite palette. I gave myself the golden no pan left behind this, and then to reach into it 10 times. I've reached into it 6 times, and I will say I really like this shade Chocolate Liqueur. I've reached into this shade 4 times. I just like this for like blending the darkness of an eyeshadow look into like the light, but I'm just not excited by this color story. It leans to like brown purple, whereas I like either like a brown golden, like today I used the Natasha Denona golden. I like a more neutral brown, a warm brown, or a cool brown. I don't like when it's like a brown that is kind of like a purple or a mauve tone brown. Like I'd rather just fully commit to mauves then. And then these two bright golds, like I just don't reach for gold that much. I sat on this decision for quite a while. There's also, spoiler, I think I'm going to end up decluttering my Huda Empowered palette, and that one was like, I literally would like sit there with the palette open, because Huda Empowered kind of is similar in like the mattes in that palette too, where it's like brown but purple, and I'm just like, that is just not what I enjoy. I'd rather be reaching for other palettes, creating other looks, and that is okay. That is okay. I can find this palette a different homeowner, and it is going to live a happy life with someone else, just not me. So this is something I will ultimately end up decluttering as well. And that brings me to the 5 additional products that I'm going to be bringing in. 2 of them are eyeshadow singles. I have 3 palettes that I'm counting as like 1, and then a lip gloss, and a duo. So let's start with the palettes. I have my 3 remaining Huda Obsessions palettes, and I feel like I keep these because I used to love the Huda Obsessions palettes so much. But that being said, I just don't find these to be all that special in my collection anymore. Although I say that, and then it's like I'll create looks with them and I'm like, I do actually kind of like that. So I have my Wild Tiger, which I actually think I probably ultimately will end up keeping this one. I do think this color story is unique to my collection. My goal with each of these is to no pan left behind each of them and reach for each palette at least 5 times. So if a palette is no pan left behind it and I reach for it 5 times, it is saved. So I have the Huda Wild Tiger, which looks like this. Then I have the Huda Nude Medium, which is more like pinky, but I feel like every time I reach into this palette, I do end up loving it. I do have a pan in this one as well. And then I have Huda Nude Rich, which I have decluttered and then recluttered into my collection. This one is very pink and a little bit deeper. I think I just like these 3 shimmers in this palette, which is why I recluttered it. But I also don't know if I've reached for it even one time since recluttering it into my collection. I could definitely see this not being saved. So these 3, we're gonna see how I feel, having a little bit of pressure under me to try and save them. Then I have the lip gloss that I have on today. This is another product that I've decluttered and recluttered into my collection. It's the Becca Liquid Crystal Lip Topper Glow Gloss, which Becca hasn't been a brand for several years, so tells you it's old. But this was, I don't know where this was sitting, and I was like, I remember when I first got this, I think I got this in a glossy box. I'm not gonna add any more onto my lips because I feel like it'll be too much of this. Well, I'll add a little bit. I do think I got this in a glossy box, and I remember loving it the summer that I first got it because it does have this really beautiful kind of champagne sparkle to it. But the Becca glosses take 4 freaking ever to get through, so I think I kind of gave up on this and decluttered it. I did finish a Becca gloss last year, and I'm so close to being done with another Becca gloss, and then this will be my last one. I don't think there's any chance of me finishing this year. I don't really want to track a lip gloss in terms of like uses. Maybe I'll say, I'll look at my other gloss, like there's definitely heavy windowing here. Maybe I'll say I just have to have like heavy windowing on this. Like it has to look like I could finish it within the next year in order for me to keep it. Is that a good goal? Probably not. Anyway, that is rolling in. Then I have 2 eyeshadow singles, both from Urban Decay. I have 2 of the Moon Dust. I just don't reach for single shadows like this, literally at all. However, I have been getting into an eyeshadow crayon and something more one and done on the lids this year. So perhaps I will ultimately end up wanting to keep these. I'm gonna give myself a 10 use goal with each of these. So this is Lithium. If I wanna keep Lithium, I need to reach for it 10 total times. That does look so pretty. But it's like, do I have other things in palettes that are similar enough? Like I just never reach for a single eyeshadow. And then I have the infamous Space Cowboy in the old packaging, which again, okay, that is so beautiful. Such a beautiful lid topper. Anyway, I'm not reaching for these. There's no point in me keeping them if they're literally just sitting collecting dust. So I need to reach for each of these 10 times in order for them to stay in the collection. And then the final product is my Charlotte Tilbury Film Star Bronze and Glow Mini. I remember being so excited when they came out with a mini because I had wanted this for such a long time. I hit a pan in the contour shade, contour bronzer, and I just feel like this has really lost its appeal. Like I cannot remember the last time I heard someone talk about the Charlotte Tilbury Film Star Bronze and Glow, but when this came out, it was like everybody would talk about this in like every single video. Somehow this would be mentioned. And I just, first of all, the bronzer brush that I use to like bronze up here is like much larger than this. This is more of like a neutral shade where I could reach for it more as a contour bronzer. I think I'll definitely get more use out of this in like the fall winter. And then the highlight I just literally never reach for. I'm going to say, I don't even know. I'm gonna say I need to either empty out the contour side, and at that point I think I would be ready to declutter this anyway. I'll say maybe I need to reach for the highlight 10 times and then either heavily expand this pan or have this side as an empty in order for this to be saved. And I just am curious, the reason I want to use the highlight 10 times is do I want to keep the highlight in my collection? Do I care to? this is something I could definitely see getting decluttered. But I want to light a fire under my butt to decide to like ultimately make the decision before the end of the year. So we're rolling in the Charlotte Tilbury Film Star Bronzing Glow Mini. And after that, that is going to wrap and conclude my update for my These Products Will Self-Destruct update. I would love to know if you're doing something similar to this. I would love to know what products are on your chopping block. What are you thinking about decluttering from your collection? Let a girl know in the comments below. Other than that, thank you guys so much for sticking around to watch today's video and for supporting me and my channel as you guys always do. I love you guys so much, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye.